Welcome to the Reality Revolution. I'm your host, Brian Scott. Today we're returning to Paramahansa Yogananda's amazing book, The Second Coming of Christ, Discourse 24. This amazing lecture and discussion talks about casting out devils in reference to the Bible and what it says about casting out devils. Check out my previous episode with Paramahansa Yogananda, where we talked about the role of Satan in God's creation. That was a mind-blowing read. I learned so much about it, and his unique perspective of good and evil I found to be very resonating. Here, he talks about casting out devils, specifically in reference to Jesus' teachings as it's referred to in the Bible. Casting out devils. And in the synagogue there was a man which had a spirit of an unclean devil, and cried out with a loud voice, saying, "Let us alone. What have we to do with thee, thou Jesus of Nazareth? Art thou come to destroy us? I know thee who thou art, the Holy One of God." And Jesus rebuked him, saying, "Hold thy peace, and come out of him." And when the devil had thrown him in the midst, he came out of him and hurt him not. And they were all amazed, and spake among themselves, saying, "What a word is this? For with authority and power he commanded the unclean spirits, and they come out." And the fame of him went out into every place of the country round about. And he arose out of the synagogue, and entered into Simon's house. And Simon's wife's mother was taken with a great fever, and they besought him for her. And he stood over her, and rebuked the fever, and it left her. And immediately she arose and ministered unto them. Luke 4:33 through 39. Casting out devils is not an antiquated superstition. The art of casting out devils and healing the spiritually sick of evil obsessions has been largely forgotten due to the lack in all religions of God-tuned apostles who know the subtle workings of the good and evil forces in the world. On many occasions, Jesus drove evil spirits from the afflicted, as in this present verse, and as once he commanded the entities to take leave of a tormented man and enter into the bodies of pigs, who then perished in the sea. And also in the case of the woman of Canaan and her daughter, who was grievously vexed with the devil, and whom Jesus healed through the mother's great faith in him. No amount of so-called progressive liberal thinking can accurately explain away these works of Jesus. Each time he distinctly called forth the evil spirit, and the victim was then made whole. Jesus, with his perfect integrity and divine knowledge, would not have referred to such cases as possession by evil spirits if they had instead been psychological, as in hysteria or lunacy. In modern times, many people scoff at the idea of anybody being possessed by an unclean devil. They dismiss such assertions as a myth or superstition, and no doubt there are many quasi-superstitious outgrowths in beliefs and practices. In the olden days of superstition and candlelight, devils seemed to be plentiful, but now in the electrical age, the evil spirits appear to be scared away. However, psychiatrists can tell of the many cases of mental obsessions by fixed ideas, little knowing that some patients may indeed be suffering from actual possession by unclean spirits. Real cases of possession may be misdiagnosed as brain derangement, or as a state of hallucination, or as spells of hysteria. On the other hand, many psychological cases have been erroneously described as spirit possession by credulous spiritualists. Actual cases of spirit possession, while true, are relatively rare. More common is mental obsession caused by the evil forces of delusion. Whatever the cause, physical and mental and spiritual healing are possible when one, like Jesus, can employ divine power to cast out devils and the forces of evil from the threefold nature of man. The human body and mind, being products of nature individualized from spirit by cosmic delusion, are subject to various kinds of mortal diseases. Jesus, as a true minister of self-realization, the perfection of the real self or soul, not only knew how to win people away from satanic ignorance and bring them into divine vibrations by his words of wisdom, but he knew also how to heal them of their diverse kinds of maladies. While preaching in the synagogue, a place where people usually go for their souls to be healed by the salve of inspiring sermons, Jesus encountered a man possessed by an unclean devil. Forthwith, Jesus healed this stricken victim. There's nothing mysterious about devils or disembodied evil spirits except in the ignorance of people who have not studied their characteristics. Many scientific secrets that formerly lay hidden in nature are now commonplace matters. Someday, when people will be more spiritually advanced, they will understand the mysteries of life and death and the nature of discarnate souls that have gone into the unknown. By long, successful practice of meditation, a devotee can transfer his will and attention beyond the portals of the conscious and the subconscious minds into the superconscious. When he can go deeper and project his concentration consciously from superconsciousness, felt within his body, into the light of Christ intelligence hidden beyond the state of wakefulness, dreams, subconsciousness, and superconsciousness, he can then behold the vast astral universe of luminous vibratory planets and vibratory spheres peopled with millions of disincarnate souls. The inhabitants of the astral world are garbed in forms made of energy and light, and are confined to higher or lower astral spheres according to their karma. There are, however, a few astral beings known as tramp souls. They are earthbound because of strong material urges and attachments. They roam in the ether, desirous of re-entering a physical form to satisfy their need for sense enjoyments. Such beings are usually harmless, invisible ghosts, and have no power to affect the ordinary person. However, tramp souls do occasionally take possession of someone's body and mind, but only such vulnerable persons who are mentally unstable or have weakened their mind by keeping it often blank or unthinking. Owing to their mental emptiness and karmic attraction, they unwittingly invite the advent of vagrant spirits within their bodies. If one leaves his car unlocked, with the key in the ignition, any uncouth character may get in and drive off. Tramp souls, having lost their own physical body vehicle to which they were inordinately attached, are on the watch for such unattended conveyances. Unclean devils, cited in the case of possession that Jesus exorcised, are those astral beings among tramp souls who on earth were murderers, robbers, and other criminals, drunkards, and licentious persons, and especially vicious and treacherous beings who did not cleanse themselves of their evil propensities before death. Even the greatest sinner, if he cleans his subconscious mind and memory by contacting the superconsciousness in meditation before death, does not carry his unpurged wickedness into a sphere beyond death. But those persons who leave their physical bodies in a state of sin, as also those who ruthlessly and foolishly commit suicide, are considered unclean souls in the astral world. They roam in the lower astral spheres, imprisoned in their astral and causal bodies, finding no rest, and either hating to be reborn on the earth or grieving for the loss of their physical incarnation. These forlorn souls have to wander about in the ether until some of the karmic effects of their bad actions are worn out through the operation of the divine law. The devilish spirits among them are very unscrupulous, even as they were during earth life. Satan, the cosmic evil intelligence, has his satellites in disreputable persons who have lost in the moral and spiritual battle, working through these decadent beings not only on earth while they are living, but also in their afterlife astral existence. As evil-possessed persons do mischief on earth, so these Satan-obsessed astral beings continue their mischief in the astral world, as well as in the physical world as tramp souls. They seek out persons with similar karmic potentials, attracted by their negative vibrations. They intelligently possess and punish such earthly human beings during the term of their own astral punishment, determined by their specific transgressions in worldly life. Why should it be considered amazing that such disembodied evil spirits reside on the other side of life, when devils and devilish persons exist right on the side of life? If souls are immortal, then, according to the law of cause and effect, it is logical to expect that when a devilish person sheds the mortal coil and passes through the door of the mortal change called death into the afterlife, he does not become an angel, but continues to be a devil. Only a soul who has been angelic on earth can continue to be so after crossing the gulf of death, entering not the dark astral spheres, but the finer atmosphere of heaven. As a good boy turned to evil ways can be called a devil, so the disincarnate astral consciousness of a person gone wrong becomes devilish in its behavior. Such wicked beings pass through many strange experiences in the afterlife, as people of calm disposition usually have deep soothing sleep. So good souls, when they sleep the sleep of death, experience a wondrously refreshing peace and uplifting dream visions before reincarnating to continue working out their earthly karma. But as restless and excitable persons often experience nightmares during sleep, so also when people of evil, disturbed disposition die, they experience during the great death sleep, according to the law of cause and effect, only horrible astral nightmares, reflections of their own accumulated evil. As a man may sleep a few hours or 3 hours or 12 hours, or may have sleeping sickness, so some souls after death remain in the state of unconscious sleep for a little while or a long time, according to their karma in earthly life. Souls with good karma are able to awake in the astral land after the sleep of death. Those who have practiced many virtues enjoy the results of their good karma on the heavenly astral planets, where the limitations of earth life are non-existent. Most souls, neither categorically virtuous nor evil, after sleeping the sleep of peaceful unconscious death, with occasional experiences of astral awakefulness, wake up in the womb of their new earthly mother. Only souls who by meditation can control the life force functions of heart and breath, and remain engrossed in the constant ecstasy of God consciousness during their earth life, can remain conscious unbrokenly during the transition of death and also in the astral world. It is the testimony of these devotees who can retain their consciousness in the after-death state that declares the mystery of the astral experience. As worms live in the earth, fish live in the water, humans live on earth, birds live in the air, and angels live in the fine, airless, vibratory realms, so also there are various atmospheres and vibratory regions in the astral universe where souls of varying degrees of advancement reside according to the merits and demerits of their pre-astral existence in earth life. Fish cannot live for long out of their watery habitat. Similarly, tramp souls, unclean spirits, must remain in gross, vibratory astral planets, whereas finer souls reside in the subtly vibrating luminous planets. If tramp souls dared to approach these finer regions, they would be shocked or astrolocuted by the high voltage of astral energy. As people walk in sleep or cry out during a bad dream, so during the sleep after death, unclean spirits move about in the ether crying out for relief. Often they try to get hold of some passive bodily vehicle through which to express their agony and pent-up wickedness. As a sleepwalker does many strange things, so these ghostly sleepwalkers engage in many strange antics, but they can never infest brains occupied with intelligent thinking or people with strong willpower or vibrations of spiritual perception. That is why one should never make the mind negative or blank in order to open oneself to messages from disincarnate spirits. This presents an ideal opportunity for possession by low-type tramp souls seeking human vehicles for expression and experience. The minds of spiritually advanced persons cannot be occupied by devilish souls, but these devotees can invoke the presence of and communion with saintly souls by use of the proper technique of astral intuition. One must learn the right technique from one's guru. Divine saints do not appear through mediums and seances. They respond only when they are invited by the urge of the devotion of advanced devotees. Such devotees can see or talk to saints in vision. When they develop even further, they can see with open eyes the materialized form of saints and can talk to them or touch them, even as the advanced disciples of Jesus were able by their devotion to see and touch Jesus Christ in flesh after his resurrection. So the idea of devils possessing weak-brained, thought-unoccupied persons cannot be discarded as superstition, but a strong personality fully occupies his brain, thereby shutting out the invasion of tramp souls. Devotees are sincerely seeking God and who practice scientific methods of prayer and meditation need never fear such beings, for no harm from negative spirits can come to one whose thoughts are on God. While one meditates on God, one can be absolutely convinced that his body is so charged with a high voltage of cosmic energy emanating from the thought of God that he is protected from the lower astral intruders. If any such spirits would even try to possess the bodies of God-turned souls, those entities would be shocked and driven back to the dark spheres of the astral world. There is a distinct difference between the condition of a person acting under the influence of possession by a tramp soul or unclean devil, and that of one acting under a hypnotic spell or the obsession of a subconscious idea or autosuggestion. Men and women under the influence of hypnosis or strong obsession of the subconscious mind can be made to act in either a noble or devilish way. Real possession consists of the actual presence in one's body of a soul that has cast off its own physical garment and in its astral form is partially, completely, or spasmodically incapacitating the rational faculties of the possessed. One human body ordinarily cannot house another being along with its own self, except in the case of a mother carrying a child. But spiritual experts are able to distinguish true cases of spirit possession because by their psychic powers they are able to behold within the person possessed the astral body of the invisible visitor side by side with the astral body of the host. The only way a layman is able to deduce a case of spirit possession is by analyzing the different state of paroxysm and wild behavior to which a possessed person is subject. The evil spirit-possessed person usually displays unusual physical strength, bloodshot eyes, uncanny expression, and general lack of normal behavior. This bestial irrationality is variously displayed and described in the instances of spirit possession exercised by Jesus. Like attracts like. So the possessed man in the synagogue, by the attraction of his own sinful vibration, drew unto himself an unclean spirit. Jesus, possessing the universal Christ consciousness, could feel exactly what was going on within the body of the bedeviled man, and the unclean spirit, through the intuition of its astral body, could feel the power of Jesus. Astral-bodied souls perceive through the sixth sense of intuition, but they can use it to perform the functions of vision, audition, smell, taste, touch, and so forth. The unclean, wicked spirit kept the mind of the possessed man in a state of suspension, neutrality, and sub-hypnosis of obsession, so that its victim's instruments of consciousness, senses, brain, and body could be used without interference. A possessed individual may or may not be unconscious within his spirit-controlled body, just as a person under hypnosis may manifest the unconsciousness of sleep or the superficially normal state of obsessed conscious mind. The unclean spirit saw Jesus through the eyes of the possessed man and used his voice to cry loudly, "Let us alone! Do not deny us our freedom of expression, be it good or evil." The possessive spirit itself, obsessed with satanic evil, recognized in Jesus the opposing force of godly good. "I know thee, the Holy One of God." The spirit rightly feared that Jesus, with his Christ consciousness having control over all life, would put an end to the unauthorized forced occupation of the possessed man's mind. It knew that the omnipresent Christ consciousness in Jesus was the Lord of creation. Astral beings, whether clean or unclean, know that it is the Christ intelligence and not Satan's Maya that has ultimate power over the inner world. even though Satan tries to exert his influence in the astral world to the same degree he succeeds on earth. But heaven is not a comfortable place for a fallen archangel. Jesus did not want the unclean devil in its irritated state to do harm to the brain of the obsessed man. If possession by unclean devils or disembodied souls continues for long, great mischief is done to the brain, mind, and sense organs of the possessed individual, posing a threat of the advent of permanent insanity. By his life-controlling willpower, Jesus spoke, "Hold thy peace and come out of him." That is, stop the devilish work of wrecking possessed brains. Hold on to the inner peace of the soul, hidden behind the dark barrier of self-created past evil propensities, and restore again your right behavior by coming out of the body you have forcibly and unethically occupied. It requires strong concentration and divine willpower to dislodge an evil spirit. If one has dynamic spiritual force, the entity can be thrown out by constantly looking into the eyes of a stricken individual, using steady, silent willpower, continuously inwardly commanding the evil spirit to leave. The entity will depart, provided the will of the healer to drive the evil force out is stronger than the latter's will to remain. By the repeated whisper of Om in the right ear of the possessed individual, the evil spirit is bound to leave. Tramp souls, having wandered out of the dark, lower astral regions, cannot stand the higher vibration of spiritual thoughts and consciousness. The utterance of holy names and words, especially Om, 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 into the ear of possessed individuals, usually brings forth a quick, frightened reply from the individual like, "I am going, don't utter that holy word," which indicates spirit possession. Jesus, drawing power from the cosmic Om vibration, commanded with his Om impregnated voice the devil to come out of the body of the afflicted individual. The devil, unwillingly to obey Jesus, fought against the powerful vibration. This created convulsions in the body of the bedeviled man as the powerful cosmic current vibrating within him tried to dislodge and shake out the intruding spirit. At last, the evil entity came out of the body violently, leaving the man limp and shaken but not hurt, unable to harm him due to the intervention of the divine Christ Jesus. The people who beheld this casting out of an unclean spirit were in awe of the sovereign authority in the word of Jesus, which even demonic entities were constrained to obey, adding far and wide to the renown of Jesus. Why be concerned about the harassment of ghostly tramp souls? Such threat is negligible. Normal, healthy-minded persons are impervious to their mischief. A far greater danger to one's well-being exists right within and around every human being. Good and evil are fighting for supremacy. The one force is trying to save us, and the other to harm us. We are caught in the middle of this cosmic war between God and his fallen archangel Satan. One cannot dismiss this problematic conflict by rationalizing that Satan is a mere delusion. Jesus himself acknowledged the actuality of the adversary when he said, "Get thee behind me, Satan, and deliver us from evil." It would hardly be necessary to pray to God at all if there were no devil and works of the devil from which man requires divine intervention to be delivered. Satan, with his power of Maya, exists in order to provide the dichotomy of spirit necessary to bring into manifestation and perpetuate the cosmic universal drama. But though God allows the shadows of troubles to play amidst his light, he also tries to help us out of delusion's turmoils. God and his angels and countless good spirits, spiritual forces, are trying to establish divine harmony in man and his cosmic environment. Every beneficial quality is created by a divine agent of God. These personified spiritual forces are constantly implanting noble thoughts in man's mind. At the same time, Satan, with his evil spirit, is fomenting chaos in the world and restive temptations to distress man's consciousness. As all good is organized by God and his angels, and as he sends his spiritually advanced children on earth from time to time to eradicate evil, similarly, The mighty evil force Satan, with a vast horde of evil spirits, personified evil forces, is carrying on a campaign of organized wickedness throughout the universe. Millions of harmful bacteria and a melange of evil diseases, evil thoughts, evil passions are all potentially implanted by the evil force into the mind and body of man. Though man is essentially made in the image of God, when his mortal vulnerability succumbs to obsession by the latent satanic forces in him of greed, selfishness, anger, or any of the evil tendencies, these overcloud the purity of the human soul. God's light is present in every being as the soul with its godly reflections of divine forces and qualities. Satan is also present in every being as ignorance with distinct reflections of himself as evil forces or spirits. Thus, each individual is influenced both by the soul and its good qualities and by Satan and his evil qualities. So the truth is that the direct creator of evil, as concerns the relative existence and experience of man, is this satanic force, the archangel that turned away from God and misused his God-given power in order to create evil as a counterpart of all the good that God has created. Thus we find in each man opposite qualities: good created by God, evil created by Satan, love created by God, hate created by Satan, kindness created by God, selfishness created by Satan, intoxication of divine ecstasy created by God, and intoxication of evil gratifications created by Satan. When a person is beset with an evil obsession, physically, mentally, or spiritually, such as chronic disease, insidious emotions, habits, or desires, spiritual ignorance, it is the manifestation of a spirit, reflection of Satan, a devil that needs to be cast out as decidedly as the exorcism of a tramp soul or unclean devil in a case of spirit possession. Such indeed were among the many healings effected by Jesus, as in the following incident. And he arose out of the synagogue and entered into Simon's house. And Simon's wife's mother was taken with a great fever, and they besought him for her. And he stood over her and rebuked the fever, and it left her. And immediately she arose and ministered unto them. Luke 4:38-39. Diseases are due to the lack of proper operation of the conscious beneficial forces that govern the body, and are also due to the evil forces which consciously allow the bane of disease to spread in the body. Some diseases are brought about by physical transgressions against the laws of health, but the disease germs themselves are engendered and intelligently controlled by the evil force of Satan, which tries to destroy the beautiful creation of God, the human body. Whenever a person transgresses physically, mentally, or spiritually, a portal is opened for a specific disease or malady to enter the body according to the nature of the transgression. Vibrations are generated that attract the agencies of evil in the form of disease germs. Disease germs have a dormant intelligence that an opportune time is roused and directed by Satan. Jesus could see the evil force that was responsible for the introduction of fever into the body of Simon's wife's mother, and thus he rebuked it away and restored the harmony of health. Jesus commanded the predominating evil force to depart from the body of the stricken woman, thus reinstating the conscious astral forces that govern normal health. He knew all the intelligent evil forces that create havoc in people and was able, through his all-powerful Christ consciousness, to talk in the vibratory language of the fever and command it to depart from the ailing body of the woman. That is what is meant by Jesus rebuking the fever. All evil has some intelligence by which it works its mischief. Note how cleverly it insinuates itself into the mind of a person through false reasoning. Vice takes the cloak of virtue and fools the gatekeeper of reason, and thus enters the forbidden sanctum of virtue. Each soul is independent and free to act according to the good influences of God and soulful qualities, or to act under the influence of Satan's evil qualities and Satan's reflections. The devils which obsess the being of man. While good and evil actions can be freely chosen, after one has acted, he has no free choice as to consequences. If he acts in a good way, he must receive a good result, and if he acts in an evil way, he must receive an evil result. The cohort reflections of Satan in each man constantly urge him to do wrong through the lure of temptations that appeal to his prenatal karmic tendencies and present habits. God tries to influence a being through conscience and soul peace found in meditation. As a free agent, man must choose either to act under the influence of God's direction or Satan's evil incitements. When one acts according to the influence of conscience or good qualities, he creates good tendencies and good habits, which automatically draw him toward God. Whenever an individual acts evilly under the influence of evil habits or evil qualities, then automatically he is drawn towards Satan, ignorance, and satanic ways. This explanation of good and evil is to point out that man is not responsible for being tempted to do evil under the influence of anger, greed, or fear, or other evils implanted in him by Satan, but he is responsible if he chooses to act according to the temptations of the evil forces. Such temptations appear in man as evil impulses and inner promptings to do wrong. When the evil forces are successful, obsessed man feels compelled to act out those urges. Human beings thus succumb to evil, not only through the influence of their prenatal or postnatal tendencies and bad habits, but also because they are consciously pushed by the satanic entities residing in the brain. When the evil entity of an obsession is dislodged from the brain by higher meditations, self-controlled right actions, and the help of one's guru, then a soul really becomes free. Jesus healed Mary Magdalene from 7 devils, visitations of the evil forces. Great masters like Jesus can transmit their light of spirituality into the mind of a person obsessed with an evil intent and thereby dislodge the specific evil force causing the affliction. If a man sits in a room full of light, beholding beautiful objects to him, light exists. If another man sits in the same room with eyes closed, to him, darkness exists, albeit self-created. Similarly, there are 2 kinds of people in this world. One kind have their spiritual eyes of wisdom open. They see God and His goodness existing everywhere, in everything. The second kind have their spiritual eyes closed. They experience creation as rife with Satan and his evils. Man is responsible for harboring the darkness of evil if he does not cultivate the true perception of wisdom. Devotees are those souls who obey the wishes of God to keep their eyes of wisdom open and focused only on good, and deluded persons are those who heed the voice of evil and keep their eyes of spirituality closed, thus courting the darkness of misery, sickness, and the whole host of Satan's evils. God is alluring His devotees by all good things to come unto Him, and Satan, by the allurement of false promises of happiness, is coaxing people deeper into his pit of ignorance and misery. Man should consider the whisperings of his conscience and good tendencies as the call of God within him. Conversely, he should recognize and resist the promptings of evil thoughts and urges as the lure of Satan. If man continuously listens responsively to the whisperings of his conscience and nascent virtues and gets used to better ways of living, he ultimately discovers the eternal good within the God image of his soul, and through this self-realization becomes liberated. Because Satan breaks his promises to give lasting happiness to his followers, they will all finally turn away from him to God. Satan's devils, the originators and pioneers of evil working through evil tendencies in man, should therefore be cast out from ignorance-haunted souls. Spiritualizing one's life through righteous behavior, and especially through God communion and deep regular meditation, is the way to expel evil entities and open up the latent perceptions of heaven within. To rid the consciousness of obsessing evil forces is the real metaphysical way of freeing a soul forever from the influences of Satan's devils that have carried on their misery-dealing work through incarnations in one who chose to misuse his power of reason. Jesus, being omniscient, had full knowledge of how Satan and his evil forces worked in torturing human beings. Thus he knew the metaphysical art of casting out those devils, as did his specially ordained apostles. The art is known to all masters, who then teach other souls how to be free forever from the innate influences of evil entities by consciously establishing within themselves the preeminence of God. Great masters can heal the ignorance and truth-seeking devotees by contact with the Christ consciousness and transmitting to them that spiritual power. I've seen how my guru, Swami Sri Yukteswarji, cast out devils from obsessed beings and healed so-called incurable sicknesses, and preached through his exemplary living. Masters who are entirely free from evil show others thereby how to be likewise free. By the contact of God, through advanced concentration and meditation, as with the self-realization techniques, and by spiritually developing oneself with the help of the guru, devotees can actually dislodge the originator of evil, Satan, and his obsessing entities from within the sacred sanctum of their body temple. Illumined saints have declared how the spirit entity of evil takes shape and leaves the body permanently after highest spiritual attainment. When the evil entity departs, the cleansed consciousness of the devotee becomes not only absolutely impervious to evil, but cannot see evil in anything anymore. He sees God alone everywhere. In summary, the lesson to be drawn from the dramatic demonstrations of Jesus in casting out devils is not that one should concentrate on and fear possession by tramp souls, a rare actuality, or obsessions by Satan's evil entities, innate in the human psyche. Rather, one should have a working knowledge of and healthy respect for the ever-present delusive satanic power, and thereby keep oneself wholly immune to evil influences. Listen to the voice of God echoing in your good thoughts. These are strong intimations from God and his angelic spirits to guide and help you. Satan also is exerting his influence with his own kind of contrary mental instigations. Every time a bad thought or impulse comes, cast out that devilish entity. Then Satan cannot do anything to you. Why remain a mortal captive oscillating between good and evil? Escape into the heart of spirit, where Satan and his horde will be unable to reach you. And that concludes this discussion, Casting Out Devils, by Paramahansa Yogananda. A really fascinating discussion of casting out devils from the perspective of Kriya Yoga. It makes sense. If there are spirits that are addicted to the physical body, that remain in the earth realm, that can take over weaker souls who are absent or not protective of their own consciousness, it appears that it could be possible. We certainly can look at Joseph Murphy, who says it's impossible. And then I look at people who are schizophrenics, who have talked to me about the voices that they have come to them. Clearly, there may be a disembodied or discarnate spirits that exist within this realm, and some people become sensitive to them as we move into higher density, or some people are absent in their own thoughts, allowing an opening where your body is essentially like a car that's being driven. There are people that appear deranged and have hallucinations where this would make sense in those cases. In any case, the story that he's telling you is that you can cast out these devils by remaining in union with the good thoughts that come your way. You evaluate every thought that comes to you, and if you assume that it's not necessarily coming from you, but you're like a radio frequency, and you get these negative thoughts that come, you can assume that's from a different sort of paradigm that you don't want to be a part of. It's a different polarity, a negative polarity, and you don't want to be a part of. Clearly, we live in a world of duality within this illusion or simulation that we're in. This duality entails promptings. It entails temptations. It's constantly what they call in the law of one catalyst, where you have these temptations of good or evil, self or other. A careful reading of this particular lecture and discourse will give you ways to cast out those devils. He uses Jesus' own words to explain the technique that he uses, advising the spirit to find the peace within and to rebuke them. And with your authority from God, the Creator, you can rebuke any of these spirits. My favorite technique when I have sensed a negative entity in my own experience, around other people, around my house or others, is to love them. It's a reminder of the love they may have experienced in another life. Love always transforms and is always the answer to any question. And so what happens is some of these evil spirits have purposely polarized negative to manipulate and control. And when they receive this love, it totally depolarizes them. It sets them back thousands of years on their path, which is very difficult in the first place. They avoid high vibrating souls at all costs because they can be depolarized. And if you send love to these entities, if you're aware of a negative presence in someone or around you, then you send it love from that perfect place and declare that you love them. You can imagine this evil spirit is like your grandmother or somebody that you knew that got waylaid or misled or ended up for some reason here in this particular state, because what I believe is happening is that these entities are discarnate in a particular state, and you can transform their state very easily by sending them love. A reminder that they are not alone, that they are loved, and that they can find greater joy and pleasure. We get sucked in our own souls through all these different temptations into the world of flesh and matter, and it can happen to anybody. Anybody can become this discarnate presence that is addicted to some negative thought. And you don't need to be scared of them. Not the people listening to this podcast. They're afraid of you. But if you come into their presence through others, send them love, you instantly transform that spirit and the person that is dealing with that negative entity. That's the power that you have. Super excited to read more of these discourses. We have so many amazing ones on the forgiveness of sins, crucifixion, and who Jesus was in a past life. So many amazing things. I can't wait to read more to you. Please let me know in the comments what you think and if you want me to continue reading some of these discourses by Paramahansa Yogananda. You can find all episodes of The Reality Revolution at therealityrevolution.com. Now available at newearth.art. Powerful fourth density technologies, art magic, sigils, images designed to magnetize and broadcast specific energies and intentions. You can access these images to help you find true prosperity, large sums of money, true love, radiant health and spiritual enlightenment with unique portals into the new earth. These images are available for you. You can acquire prints of any image. You can acquire magnets, mugs, iPhone cases, t-shirts, hoodies, greeting cards, coasters, and several different gallery wraps and styles of canvas. You can also get these images in a variety of different sizes and dimensions. You can purchase these in a variety of different ways, and they are here to enable you to transform your life. You can go to wall previews and look at these images, and you can check them out with different dimensions. In many cases, you can get images up to 72 inches for any of these images. They are designed as unique technologies for you to look into, infused with magical light at www.newearth.art. Welcome to the Reality Revolution.